Excellencies, distinguished representatives, ladies and gentlemen, I hereby declare open the session of the Human Rights Council. Before we begin our agenda, I would like to give a warm welcome to our external evaluators, namely Ms. Laia Valls from the Office of the High Commissioner of the Human Rights and Ms. Nicoletta Zapile from the UPR Info. We shall now open agenda item 6 with the adoption of the Universal Periodic Review Working Group outcomes of reviews of the states of Argentina, India, Morocco, Pakistan, South Africa, and the United Kingdom. I wish to highlight that this cycle of the UPR provides the opportunity to take note of the developments that occurred during the previous reviews, in particular, with regards to the implementation of the recommendations received during the previous 2 UPR cycles. As emphasized by the United Nations Secretary General in his reports, these UPR recommendations provide an important basis to achieving great results, both in the implementation of sustainable development goals and human rights protection at country level. Before we proceed, let me briefly recall the modalities of the UPR segment of the plenary. I would like to take this opportunity to emphasize the important role that national human rights institutions and international organizations play in the UPR process. Their participation in the deliberation of the Council within the framework of the UPR segment provides additional clarification of issues under discussion. In this regard, I would like to refer to the Human Rights Council Resolution 16/21, to which the Council strongly rejects any intimidation or reprisal against individuals and groups who cooperate with the United Nations and representatives in human rights cases. I urge states to prevent and ensure adequate protection against such acts. Furthermore, I would like to recall, as provided for in Council Resolution 5/1 and 16/21, that all recommendations are an integral part of the outcome document. Accordingly, and in line with paragraph 32 of the Annex to Resolution 5/1. The state under review needs to clearly communicate its position on all recommendations, either by indicating that it supports or that it notes the recommendations concerned. In addition, all interventions made by the UPR segment shall focus on the outcome document and not focus on debates that took place during the working group session. I would therefore like to appeal to all delegations to adhere to the rules established by Resolution 5/1 and 16/21. We will now proceed with the consideration of the outcome of Argentina based on the report made by the working group of UPR and its addendum. These documents, along with the additional information which the state under review will provide now, will be adopted by the Council to standardize the decision. Now I have the pleasure to give the floor to Her Excellency, Ms. Clara Colmel, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of the State of Argentina to the United Nations in Geneva, to present the general outcome of the working group sessions. Excellency, you have 5 minutes and the floor is yours.
Honorable Chair, distinguished fellow delegates, thank all of you for contributing to the review process of the Argentine Republic and the recommendations, questions, and remarks that were received. During the last 6 months, the Argentine Republic worked tirelessly on the implementation of the recommendations received by the delegations of the Republic of India, the Kingdom of Morocco, the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, the Republic of South Africa, the United Kingdom of Great Britain, and Northern Ireland. Continuing to take the view of the fellow delegations, the Argentine Republic summarized its conclusion in the addendum of the 4th UPR cycle. The outcome encompassed several parts related to human rights. In regard to the right to the education, the Argentine Republic continued the program Volve a la Escuela and successfully brought the majority of children back to school. Additionally, the program Escuela por Higiénica was created to keep schools a safe and virus-free environment. Further, the National Action Plan Programa por la Educación Igual por los Niños, las Niñas y los Jóvenes aims to create a homogeneous level of education until 2030 and is therefore in line with the Sustainable Development Goal 4. Another part of utmost importance is the interactive dialogue with indigenous people that was intensified to avoid dangerous living conditions and to improve child education. Bearing in mind the existence of the National Plan on Forest and Climate Change, which include intensive dialogues with local NGOs, progress has been made during the past month. Having devoted attention to the deployment of an ombudsman in the Ministry of Interior, a related national hotline has been created. This facilitates the direct interaction between the ombudsman and the Argentine citizens and makes full use of the established institutions. Underlining the already ratified protocol to the Convention Against Torture, a 12-part training has been put in place against inter alia institutional violence. Furthermore, a special observation body has been created in April 2022 in order to achieve full compliance with the Convention Against Torture. Emphasizing another part, the combat against hate speech has taken major steps. Argentina established the campaign Juntes contra el Hate Speech Argentina, which emphasizes differential and human interaction in the online as well as the offline world. The campaign can be accessed on social media through the acronym at HSA. Of special interest and utmost concern for the Argentine Republic is the right to sexual reproduction for people with reproductive capacities. The access to sexual health and reproductive rights has been violated in the case of rape, in which Argentina grants all victims the right to legal abortion up to 14 weeks of pregnancy. Further, a federal certification system for safe abortions is created and a comprehensive and interconnected network of healthcare services is to be established. The helpline for persons in need is meant to find the closest healthcare center. Reaffirming the right on sexual self-determination, a federal certification for safe abortion will be put in place to further ensure the access to abortion and sexual healthcare services until 2023. Acknowledging with deep gratitude the progress that has been made with the help of the respective peers and especially the Troika, the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, the Argentine Republic thanks every actor taking part. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I now give the floor to the representative of the NHRI of Argentina for comments. Ms. Angela Fernandez, you have 2 minutes and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Dear UPR Assembly, Your Excellencies representing the national delegation, colleagues of the NHRIs and NINGOs, the Defensoría del Pueblo de la Nación has the pleasure to be here in this UPR session today. And we would like to appreciate the efforts that has been made by the Republic of Argentina to promote, protect, and fulfill human rights. Nonetheless, we are still very concerned in regards to some issues, and we would like to point them. Firstly, we are concerned that not enough action has been taken to ensure full access to abortion in the entire territory right now. We would also like to ask for further clarity on how the helplines will make abortion accessible to those living in rural areas of the country where phones connections are still unstable. Secondly, we are still concerned in regard to the vagueness of the Republic of Argentina's comment regarding how they plan to avoid dangerous living conditions for indigenous populations. We would also like to inquire how the right to food and clean water will be respected, so situations like the death of the 12 Ichi children in the 2020 in the regions of Salta do not happen again. Furthermore, we will also like to know when the Argentina state will implement subsection 17 in Article 75 of the Constitution, which recognizes indigenous communal ownership of their land. Lastly, we were concerned by the lack of mention of providing indigenous people's rights with access to state relief funds due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I would like to once again thank the government of Argentina for its effort, but we still have this concern. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you very much. I'll now give the floor to the observer states so that we can hear their comments about the review of Argentina. The first speaker is a representative from the state of India. You may have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Presidency. The nation of India thanks to nation of Argentina for their participation in the cycle of the Universal Periodic Review, along with their consideration of our core recommendation. However, the nation of India is concerned for the Mapuche community of Argentina and hopes that the protection of indigenous people lives is reconsidered in the future. We urge the nation of Argentina to reconsider our recommendation on this matter. Thank you again for your willingness to participate in this fruitful and meaningful dialogue, and also thank you for National Human Rights Institution of Argentina for their cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Our next speaker is the representative from the state of Morocco.
Thank you, Madam President. The Kingdom of Morocco welcomes the delegation of Argentina and thanks it for the presentation of the development made since the first cycle review and for its collaboration throughout the whole reviewing process. Morocco would like to congratulate the Republic of Argentina for its efforts and appreciates the creation of a body to observe the full compliance with Convention Against Torture, and encourages Argentina to continue its efforts to ensure the compliance of this convention. The Kingdom of Morocco is also pleased to hear that an ombudsman will be appointed shortly and hopes that this will improve the human rights condition at Argentina. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. The next speaker is from the state of Pakistan. You may take the floor and you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President, delegates, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to welcome the delegation of Argentina in the Council on Development since Argentina's review in the first cycle of the Universal Periodic Review. We appreciate the cooperative and constructive manner with which the Argentinian government has engaged with the UPR process. Pleased to note that the government has accepted 7 recommendations of the 11 received and has taken note of 4. We are pleased to note that both the recommendations given by Pakistan were accepted. It is evident that the Argentinian government is committed to and has been actively working towards the promotion and protection of human rights in the country. We wish them well in this endeavor and in the effective implementation of the recommendations they have accepted. In conclusion, we recommend that the report of Argentina should be adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We shall now hear from the representative of South Africa. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. The delegation of South Africa would like to thank the Argentine Republic for the addendum and congratulates on their achievements. South Africa acknowledges that the national climate plans mentioned in the addendum address deforestation. However, the government of South Africa would like to emphasize the need to implement stronger monetary mechanisms to ban deforestation. Therefore, South Africa would kindly ask the delegation of Argentina to further develop its plans in detail. South Africa has provided early medical abortion for telemedical services during the pandemic. We are convinced that there is a need to ensure access to abortion services under any circumstances. Thereby, the delegation of South Africa urges Argentina to continue this discussion within the government. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We shall now hear from the representative of the United Kingdom. Your Excellency, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. The UK delegation welcomes the Republic of Argentina for its decision to accept our recommendation on equal accessibility to abortion. Indeed, we're pleased to know that the legal abortion has been granted until the 14th week, as well as the international helpline has been extended in all the country to guarantee a fair and equal access to abortion. However, the UK delegation remained concerned about the noted recommendation number 11 on the control mechanism to totally prohibit deforestation. Despite the other plans implemented by Argentina to address climate change, we strongly believe that the government should give priority to combating deforestation and its consequences. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And now I give the floor to the international organizations for any comments. Please use the raise your hand feature on Zoom and wait for your name to be called out. Please note that you have 1 minute. The first speaker is from the Center of Reproductive Rights, Ms. Menengeti.
Thank you, Madam President. In the addendum, Argentina set out a specific plan for improving access to abortion services across its territory. It has established a national helpline in cooperation with local healthcare providers and a federal certification system to guarantee that sexual health centers fulfill necessary standards of work. Both these steps show actionable commitment by the government of Argentina and are positive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is from the Unrepresented Nations and People Organizations, Ms. Rotundi.
Honorable President, Your Excellencies, AMPO is pleased to know that it has noted that Argentina has noted the recommendation from India delegates, who we kindly thank for having addressed it, regarding the right to health, education, and cultural heritage of indigenous children. However, we are concerned that children from minority groups, such as Mapuche, have several difficulties in developing their learning capabilities at the fullest, not only due to the exemption of their native culture and language from school, but also due to their precarious condition of health caused by the surrounding polluted environment, from which they should be especially protected as the main victims. We thank Argentina for its effort in protecting human rights, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Save the Children, Ms. Costa. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, fellow delegates. Save the Children welcomes and thanks the engagement of the state of Argentina during this review. However, we remain concerned with the policies and measures in place to ensure all children will safely return to school. We are greatly attentive to the situation of indigenous children who are living under dire conditions and lack access to healthcare, sanitation systems, clean water, and bilingual education. We are pleased with the continuation of the emergency family income, which is sure to relieve the COVID-19 pandemic shortcomings on families' incomes. However, we plead to the state of Argentina to continue to take care of the indigenous children and of the most vulnerable children in the country. Thank you so much, Madam President.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is from Greenpeace. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. Greenpeace would like to express its continuous concern in regards to deforestation in Argentina. In our report, Greenpeace expressed the urgent need to introduce stronger enforcement and monitoring mechanisms to fully ban deforestation. Both South Africa and the United Kingdom have addressed a recommendation in this regard. Regrettably, both recommendations were only noted by Argentina. Considering the high importance of this issue, Greenpeace calls upon the government of Argentina to take more rigorous action and ensure that the National Action Plan on Forest and Climate Change is enforced and implemented. Otherwise, illegal deforestation will continue and aggravate climate change and endanger indigenous communities. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. This concludes the list of speakers from the stakeholders. I now give the floor back to the representative of Argentina for its final remarks. Excellency, you have the floor and you have 2 minutes.
Honorable Chair, distinguished fellow delegates, noticing that this year's UPR cycle comes to an end, the Argentine Republic would like to thank all of the contributing actors to the fruitful discussion. As we fully appreciate the interactive dialogue during the last days, we as a delegation were reminded of the principles of the Argentine tango. At the heart of the tango is the desire to listen, to understand, and to converse with the person one is dancing with. Through this unique language of dance, which can be compared with the unique dialogue at the UPR, the rich potential for expression and connection is shown. At this point, the Argentine Republic would like to highlight the worth of the collaboration that takes place in the frame of the UPR. Firstly, the Argentine Republic would like to thank the fellow delegates for their accessible and important questions. Therefore, the delegation wants to further highlight some of the achievements regarding the remarks and comments the delegations made. The implementation of an online platform on the website of the Ministry of Health and the National Helpline in regard to legal and safe abortion. Here, the government of the Argentine Republic works on creating a stable connection and sees it as a priority to the future to guarantee access. Thank you for your important remarks. Argentina finds itself in an ongoing process. This interconnected network can be regarded as a first step to develop and improve access to healthcare centers throughout the whole nation. Further, the expansion of respective programs in the field of education after the pandemic, as well as the creation of a new campaign in line with SDGs are in work. Lastly, the delegation of the Argentina would like to thank the Troika, the peers, and the president of the Human Rights Center again. Coming back to the Argentine tango, the delegation would like to highlight the importance of desire to listen, to understand and converse with its partners. What matters to the same extent in the environment of the UPR. Thank you.
I thank Her Excellency for her comments and for the state of Argentina's participation throughout the UPR process. I now suggest that the Council should adopt the decision on the outcome of the UPR of Argentina. If there is no objection, it is adopted. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we shall now continue with item 6 of UPR with the adoption of the Working Group Report of India. It is with pleasure to give the floor to Her Excellency, Ms. Alessia Suryan, Minister Counselor, Permanent Mission of India to the United Nations in Geneva, to present the general outcome of the working group session. Your Excellency, you have 5 minutes and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam President. It is a privilege for me to lead the Indian delegation on the occasion of the adoption of the outcome of our 4th Universal Periodic Review. On behalf of the Indian government, I would particularly like to convey our appreciation for all the states that participated in the active dialogue during our review, the Troika members of South Africa for their involvement in the WG report drafting, as well as the President, the UPR Secretariat team, and NHRI India for their excellent work and support to this process. As stated by the addendum, India received 12 recommendations, of which 6 were accepted, 5 were noted, and 1 was submitted to further examination. It is with my greatest pleasure, 6 months after the review, to announce that the Indian government has made remarkable progress in the implementation of the accepted recommendations. New safe spaces and helplines have been established to combat violence against women. New police enforcement have been enacted in rural areas, helping to increase reporting of crime against women by 22%. Child marriage is being prevented by supervisioning administrations and special festivals where those usually take place. India has increased funding for the Clean Air Programme, working with the Environment Defence Fund, to create a low-carbon rural development strategy, installing clean burning biogas units and new solar power lighting facilities. Considering the ratification of the UNCAT, the Law Commission has reviewed the Indian Evidence Act and will start reviewing the Indian Penal Code to enable the government to ratify the convention. Moving on to the noted recommendation, we express deep regret to announce to the UK and South Africa that the Indian Supreme Court has confirmed the constitutional validity of that penalty, and that the government, in respect of the separation of powers, is only allowed to grant mercy to the convicted. On the issue of freedom of the internet, complying with international standards, this recommendation needed to be addressed to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, Technology and the Indian Press Council on broadcasting service. However, a consensus has not been reached yet, and the Indian government will continue to apply national standards as stated by the new intermediary guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code of 2021. The government reiterates that on the issue of child and bonded labour by the Parliament, the legislation in place is enough to ensure fair condition and punishment for violations. Madam President, the Indian government expresses disappointment for one recommendation in particular from the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, intending to interfere in domestic affairs and undermine the government's prestige. The Indian government would like to remind Pakistan that the Kashmir controversy is a political issue and that any description of India administered Kashmir is invalid and incorrect, as the latter is an integral part of our territory. Any further inquiry needs to be discussed elsewhere through diplomatic dialogue and political negotiation of the bilateral agreements currently in place between our nations. Finally, the Indian government would like to restate that India accepts all positive suggestions and constructive criticism of noted recommendation in the right spirit, as the promotion of human rights represents a continuing endeavour to improve the quality of life of our citizens. As a sign of our utmost commitment, we look forward to listening to the views of NGOs, civil society and states today and addressing their concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Her Excellency. I'll now give the floor to the observer states so that we hear the comments about the review of India. Each will have 1 minute. The first speaker is a representative from Argentina.
Distinguished Madam President, dear fellow delegates, the delegation of Argentina congratulates the State of India for the presentation of the Working Group Report's addendum. Further, the delegation of Argentina welcomes all the efforts taken by the State of India in regards of the accepted recommendations. Especially the strong focus on women's safety finds contentment within the delegation of Argentina. Argentina. Yet the strong focus on women's safety. Yet the delegation would like to state its concern that no measures of sensitizing men as actors have been mentioned within the addendum, and therefore would like to again stress its importance. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Her Excellency. The next speaker is a representative from Morocco. Your Excellency, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. The Kingdom of Morocco welcomes the delegation of India and thanks it for the presentation of the development sensitive for its cycle review and for its collaboration throughout the whole reviewing process. The Kingdom of Morocco is very pleased to see the developments that the delegation of India has done regarding the recommendations given in the past working group. Morocco would like to particularly thank India for its effort made to increase air quality in its territory. Lastly, the delegation encourages India to focus their attention on the rights of workers and the working conditions across the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. The next speaker is a representative from the state of Pakistan.
Thank you, Madam.
You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President, fellow delegates, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to thank the delegation of India for the submission of their addendum and their participation in this cycle of the UPR. During the working group session, India received 12 recommendations. Of them, 6 were accepted and 6 noted. In the last cycle, Pakistan expressed 3 recommendations to the Republic of India, 2 of which were noted, while 1 of them is not found neither in the working group report nor in the addendum. Notably, we said, and I quote, Pakistan appreciates legislation enacted for protecting women in the workplace and recommends continuous efforts to ensure the employment of women both in domestic work and outside the home work. Nonetheless, we hope that the Indian government is committed and will actively be working towards the promotion and protection of human rights in the country. We wish them well in this endeavor and in the effective implementation of the recommendations they have accepted. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. We remind you to fix your speaker because we could not hear you clearly, but thank you. The next speaker is a representative from the state of South Africa. Excellency, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. The delegation of South Africa would like to thank India for the addendum and welcomes their efforts since the adoption of the working group report. South Africa commends India's focus and the increase of funding on a national clean air program. Nevertheless, we are concerned that our recommendation to continue the discussion regarding the abolition of death penalty has only been noted by the Republic of India. We would like to underline the importance of this topic and therefore hope that the government of India continues this discussion in the near future. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Excellency. The next speaker is a representative from the United Kingdom. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. The UK is more than pleased with the Republic of India's interest in our recommendations. However, we are concerned that no recommendation has been accepted. We would like to reaffirm our position that freedom of internet should rely on not only on national, but international standards. We would also like to ask to the Indian delegation to clarify the reasons why recommendation number 14 on the ratification of the 2014 ILO Protocol on the Forced Labor Convention has been noted. Despite that, we are more than happy to hear that just few steps are missing until the ratification of the CAT Convention. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Excellency. I now give the floor to international organizations for them to make comments. Each team has 1 minute. The first speaker is a representative from the Center of Reproductive Rights. My apologies. The first speaker is the representative from Greenpeace.
Thank you, Madam President. Greenpeace welcomes the acceptance of India of all recommendations concerning air pollution and compliments the government's efforts taken towards improving air quality in India. Installing household and community biogas units, replacing wood-burning stoves, and installing solar panels are important steps towards cleaner energy. While these are important achievements, Greenpeace would like to recall the threats climate change poses to the Indian population and demands the government of India to take further action and invest in more climate-resilient infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now hear from Save the Children. Ms. Costa, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. Save the Children welcomes and thanks the engagement of the State of India during its review. We are pleased to verify that the State of India accepted the recommendation to take all necessary measures to strengthen and implement the National Act on the Prohibition of Child Marriage of 2006, and that festivals where child marriage traditionally take place are being supervised. The commitment of the State of India is essential for the eradication of child marriages, and Save the Children will remain attentive to this issue and also available to work together with the State of India to ensure child marriage will be eradicated in the country until 2030. We are concerned with the engagement of children as young as 5 years of age in child labor, and we plead the State of India to implement effective policies and measures to protect children against child labor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This concludes the list of speakers from the stakeholders. I now give the floor back to the representative of India for its final remarks. Excellency, you have the floor and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President. The Republic of India would like to thank once again all parties involved in their contribution to the Universal Periodic Review. The Indian delegation has taken note of all comments and remarks from the states and the civil society and is benefiting from this constructive engagement and their spirit of reciprocity and cooperation. First of all, we would like to respond about death penalty. As I said, the government respects the separation of powers and as the death penalty can only be applied by a court decision, it will not be appropriate by the government to speculate on its judgment and continue the discussion. Concerning child labor, the government has been enacting specific plans, such as the Central Sector Scheme for Rehabilitation of Bonded Laborers that has specific provision for children, and the Country Program Action Plan of 2018-22, that was signed by the Ministry of Women and Child with UNICEF, and that focuses on the protection of children from abuse, violence, and exploitation. The Indian Republic would like to remind that it is signatory of the ILO Convention, 6 out of the 8 ILO Convention, at which we are condemning the worst forms of child labor, as stated by the Worst Form of Child Labor Convention of 1999. And the National Education Program of 2021 that will increase the compulsory age for education and that will prevent, therefore, children from working. Concerning rights of women, the government is creating new monitoring bodies and committees against dowry and honor killings, and new consultation will be taken for the amendment of the Child Marriage Act of 2006. The Indian delegation would like to thank everyone and every part involved, and would like, first of all, to state its motto, Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas, all together in development for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Her Excellency, for her comments and for India's participation throughout the UPR process. I now suggest that the Council should adopt the decision on the outcome of the UPR of India. If there is no objection, it is now adopted. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, We shall now continue with item 6 of UPR with the adoption of the working group of the Kingdom of Morocco. It is with pleasure to give the floor to Her Excellency, Ms. Whittle Appleby, Interministerial Delegate for Human Rights for the Kingdom of Morocco, to present the general outcome of the working group sessions. Your Excellency, you have 5 minutes and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the working group, Your Excellencies, fellow delegates, ladies and gentlemen. As the Interministerial Delegate for Human Rights, I present the Kingdom of Morocco's final working group report and the Item 6 Addendum. We would like to thank all member states for their active participation and for all the recommendations which were received. The Kingdom of Morocco takes this opportunity to restate its commitment to protecting, promoting, and consolidating human rights at both a national and international level, as well as its commitment to participation in the Human Rights Council. It also reiterates its support for the UPR mechanism and the many possibilities that it creates for the global promotion of human rights. During the working group, the Kingdom of Morocco received a total of 10 recommendations. Morocco fully accepted 6 of these recommendations, 3 of which have been implemented and 3 of which are currently in the process of being implemented. The Kingdom of Morocco has taken note of 4 recommendations, 1 of which required further examination. The Kingdom of Morocco has made an active contribution to strengthening its engagement and cooperation with international human rights instruments and the United Nations system. The Kingdom of Morocco will continue to interact with international human rights mechanisms in line with the objectives laid out in the second National Action Plan for Democracy and Human Rights 2022 to 2025. The second National Action Plan was created after the working group of the 4th cycle of the UPR and highlights the goals and strategies for increasing the protection and promotion of human rights in the coming years in Morocco. The Kingdom of Morocco noted and appreciated states' interest in the ongoing reforms of the justice system in pursuit of better promotion and protection of human rights. The Kingdom of Morocco accepted 3 recommendations which have been fully implemented. 2 of the recommendations received dealt with the conditions of confinement and detention centres. We are pleased to announce progress in this area. The Criminal Justice Reform Committee has been approved and will come into action in 2022. It will be tasked with investigating conditions of prisons and detention centres and providing regular, detailed reports on the situations within the detention centres and improvements that may be needed. They will be working alongside the Moroccan Observatory of Prisons in pursuit of fulfilling the accepted recommendations from the 4th cycle of the UPR. The Kingdom of Morocco has continued the implementation of programmes in line with the National Priority Programme for Drinking Water in order to reduce poverty in line with SDG 6. Morocco accepted 3 recommendations that are currently being implemented. 2 of the recommendations received were in relation to anti-discrimination laws. The Kingdom of Morocco has signed the optional protocol to the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women and is in process of its accession. The second National Action Plan aims to achieve progress in respect for human rights, equality, non-discrimination, rule of law, and to promote the human rights culture within Morocco. It outlines plans to achieve anti-discrimination laws to prevent and prohibit all forms of discrimination within the kingdom. In terms of the recommendation regarding the promotion of educational programs that respect Sahrawi children's heritage, in the last 6 months have seen the introduction of intercultural dialogue and workshops in schools to foster social cohesion throughout Moroccan society. The Kingdom of Morocco has taken note of the following recommendations. Morocco was recommended to amend the Penal Code by abolishing Articles 489, 490, and 491, legitimize sexual relations outside of marriage, and impose legal regulations holding accountable fathers of children born outside marriage. However, the first article of the Moroccan Constitution underlines the unifying components of the Kingdom of Morocco, the Muslim religion, the multidimensional national unity, democracy, and the constitutional monarchy. The aforementioned recommendations conflict with these unifying components, and consequently, the Kingdom of Morocco notes but is unable to accept these recommendations. This is in line with the Kingdom's international obligations, as it has expressed reservations in some treaties in order to uphold the essence of the Constitution. We also received a recommendation to continue the debate on the abolition of the death penalty and to sign the second optional protocol to the ICCPR. To this, the Kingdom of Morocco reiterates the death penalty moratorium observed since 1993, and hence the Kingdom asserts that formal change of this law is not its priority. However, the Kingdom aims to continue the open national debate on the death penalty in line with its commitments within the Second National Action Plan. Finally, in regard to the recommendation to take measures to guarantee freedom of expression of journalists, the Kingdom of Morocco emphasises that the freedom of expression is enshrined in the Constitution. Moreover, the Press and Publications Code preserves this right. The Kingdom of Morocco is pleased with its progress in the last 6 months and looks forward to hearing any comments or further recommendations from states, NGOs, or NHRIs based on the addendum from the last 6 months. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Her Excellency. I'll give the floor to the representative of the NHRI of Morocco. You have 2 minutes.
Good morning. The Secretary General and I are glad that we had the chance to raise our concern related to discrimination and gender-based violence toward vulnerable groups. However, even Morocco did accept some of the recommendations that the international community posed. We think that there is still some work that we can collaboratively carry out, especially on this important day, the 26th of November, the day after the International Day of the Elimination of Violence Against Women. We raise our concern on domestic violence. As we highlighted during the last meeting, due to COVID-19 restriction, lots of women have been victims of violence and domestic abuse. To this concern, we want to strengthen our position against gender-based violence, especially for what concerns marital rape, which is under further examination. In fact, as already said, Morocco should regulate under this aspect, and a woman victim of domestic abuse should find the necessary support in states, authorities, and infrastructure. To this concern, we wanted also to reinforce our recommendation concerning mandatory gender-based and human-based approach to all the state's officials, especially to them working with vulnerable groups, as women, children, and people living with disabilities. Concluding, the Secretary General and I thank you all, and especially to delegates of Argentina, Freedom House, ECHR, Great Britain, UNPO participants for their cooperative work regarding promotion and protection of human rights. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to the observer states so that we can hear their comments about the review of Morocco. Each state will have 1 minute. The first speaker is a representative from Argentina.
Distinguished Madam President, dear fellow delegates. The delegation of Argentina congratulates the Kingdom of Morocco for the presentation of their working group report's addendum. The delegation of Argentina would like to state its ongoing concern about the disregard of the individual's right, sexual orientation, and gender identity. The delegation of Argentina urges the Kingdom of Morocco to reconsider its position on this important matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is a representative from the state of India. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. The nation of India thanks to Kingdom of Morocco for their participation in the cycle, along with their consideration of our recommendation. The nation of India celebrates the Kingdom of Morocco for their acceptance of our recommendation regarding taking all necessary measures to provide Sahrawi students with an adequate and safe educational environment, and look forward to hearing about the progress on this matter. Thank you again for your willingness to participate in this fruitful and meaningful dialogue. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker, representative from the state of Pakistan.
Thank you, Madam President, fellow delegates, ladies, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to welcome the delegation of Morocco and thank them for the explanation provided on the measures taken by the Kingdom of Morocco since the end of the UPR review. The UPR. Out of the 10 recommendations received, Morocco accepted 6 and noted 4. The delegation of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan was pleased to learn that Morocco has accepted both the recommendations posed by Pakistan and has already taken action to fully implement them. It is clear that the Moroccan government is committed to and has been actively working towards the promotion and protection of human rights in the country. We wish the Kingdom of Morocco a successful continuation of this session and are confident that they will continue enacting measures to fully implement the recommendations they have accepted. We recommend that the report of Morocco should be adopted. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is a representative from the state of South Africa.
Thank you, Madam President. The delegation of South Africa would like to thank the Kingdom of Morocco for their addendum and their achievements since the adoption of the Working Group report. South Africa has taken note of the second National Action Plan, which aims to achieve anti-discrimination laws to prevent and prohibit all forms of discrimination. Regarding the recommendation of the abolition of death penalty, South Africa underlines once more the importance of signing the second optional protocol to the ICCPR, aiming to abolish the death penalty, as it is undermining human dignity. Furthermore, South Africa would like to ask the Kingdom of Morocco if the protocol is going to be adopted in accordance with the ICCPR, since the addendum didn't provide any further information about this aspect. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is a representative from the United Kingdom.
Thank you, Madam President. The UK commends the Kingdom of Morocco of considering alternative forms of confinement in their criminal justice reform. Regarding Recommendation 10, we strongly believe that through ratification, they can fulfill the international standards required, and we are looking forward to the Moroccan ratification of the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women. The UK delegation remains concerned about the proper enjoyment of the rights of freedom of expression of journalists and content creators in Morocco. Since our recommendation on this topic has been noted, we kindly ask Morocco to reconsider it and implement the measures already taken. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Excellency. I now give the floor to the international organizations for them to make comments. Each speaker will have 1 minute. Please raise your hand and wait for your name to be called out. Our first speaker is a representative from the Unrepresented Nations and Peoples Organization, Ms. Rotundi.
Thank you, Madam President. Your Excellencies, AMPO is pleased to accept the recommendation from India delegates, who we kindly thank again for having addressed it, regarding the right of Sahrawi children to experience a safe educational environment with the respect of their cultural heritage. It is fundamental to prevent and prosecute discriminatory practices against children from minorities groups who daily risk their life both at school and at home. Thus, we are thankful for the Kingdom of Morocco that the Kingdom of Morocco has taken seriously into account the protection and promotion of Sahrawi children's rights. We thank the Kingdom of Morocco for its collaboration in protecting human rights, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. This concludes the list of speakers from the stakeholders. I now give the floor back to the Kingdom of Morocco for its final remarks. Excellency, you have the floor and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President. The Kingdom of Morocco would like to take this moment to thank you for facilitating the 4th cycle of the UPR, and we believe it has been a fruitful review. We would like to thank the NGOs, NHRIs, and fellow states for their insightful comments and remarks. The Kingdom of Morocco is committed towards improving the situation for women in Morocco. This includes combating gender-based violence and generally creating a safer space for women to live and participate in everyday life. The Kingdom of Morocco has demonstrated the first step in national efforts to promote and protect women's rights by the implementation of Law Number 103.12. However, this is just the first step. Further steps and goals include promoting legal safeguards for the criminalization of sexual harassment, continuation of the work done by the National Committee for Caring for Women Victims of Violence, and the economic policies to enhance women's involvement as per the Second National Action Plan. The Kingdom of Morocco reiterates the death penalty moratorium observed since 1993, and in line with its commitments within the Second National Action Plan for Democracy and Human Rights, the Kingdom aims to continue the open national debate on the death penalty. Finally, I would like to once again thank the delegates of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland for acting as our Troika state and aiding with the working group report. We would also like to thank all other member states, NGOs, NHRIs, Madam President and the Secretariat for your continued support in the participation of the UPR mechanism in promoting and protecting human rights within the Kingdom of Morocco. Thank you.
I thank Her Excellency for her comments and for Morocco's participation throughout the Universal Periodic Review process. I now suggest the Council to adopt the decision on the outcome of the UPR of Morocco. If there's no objection, it is now adopted. Excellencies, distinguished representatives, ladies and gentlemen, shall now continue with item 6 of the Human Rights Council with the adoption of the Working Group Report of Pakistan. It is with pleasure to give the floor to Her Excellency, Ms. Leonor Trigueros, Minister of Human Rights of Pakistan, to present the general outcome of the Working Group sessions. Your Excellency, you have 5 minutes and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you very much for presiding over this session. Let me express our gratitude towards the member states that participated in the interactive dialogue and that gave us their recommendations. A great appreciation extends also to the members of the Troika, Morocco, and for the Secretariat for their assistance while conducting the UPR. Pakistan acknowledges the importance of the UPR mechanism for its transparency and contribution towards the improvements of the human rights, as it must continue to support and strengthen this mechanism in accordance to the agreed rules and procedures. Madam President, Excellencies, fellow delegates, Pakistan's participation in the constructive and inclusive UPR and interactive dialogue is seen as an opportunity to highlight and to further reckoning the strides of human rights and future challenges in this matter. In total, Pakistan received 14 recommendations during the review following the finalization of the UPR reports on Pakistan by the working group. We are in the process of our internal consultation process on these 14 recommendations, and we are pleased to inform the Council that out of the 14 recommendations on which we are required to convey our position today, 2 recommendations enjoy the support of the government of Pakistan. Firstly, Pakistan is fully aware of the issue of air pollution that is affecting the country, and the competent authorities have already started to take measures and work hard in order to tackle this huge problem. Secondly, attention was also drawn to the coal-fired factories. Hydroelectrical plants will be favored over the projects of coal-fired ones, and the continuity of the validity of the moratorium of new coal-fired power plants has been asserted. Pakistan is expected to witness a shift from coal-fired factories to renewable energies activities in the near future. Furthermore, the government of Pakistan shares the concerns brought upon the work conditions and is committed to deliver great improvements in regard to the protection of workers. Moving forward, 11 recommendations have been noted by the government of Pakistan. These recommendations have not been rejected as such, but the due process of consultations on them has not been completed yet. Pakistan's government ensures minority group safety and has long aimed for a more inclusive society. Pakistan passed a law in 2018 aimed at protecting transgender people and forbidding harassment against them. We pledge to continue working to restore fundamental liberties and create a more inclusive society. Minorities in Pakistan have the constitutional right to freely practice their religion and to attend places of worship according to the Pakistan's government. The National Commission for Minorities has stated in May 2020 takes the required steps to end discrimination against ethnic and religious minorities, as well as to combat violence and the misuse of blasphemy laws. Important steps have been taken to combat hate speech that leads to the blasphemy accusations and to religious prejudice. And the Pakistan's government has been working hard to prevent the misuse and the abuse of the blasphemy laws. Pakistan is facing a vital turning point on the eradication of torture and in the improvement of the living conditions of detainees in prisons, as we recall the Pakistan Senate adoption of the Torture, Custodial Death, and Custodial Rape Bill. Moreover, the authorities continue to give a great amount of attention to the areas of health and promotion of women's rights and safety. Pakistan continues to draft laws and to formulate guidelines for protecting the rights of women, as it continues to play an active role in reassuring and implementing the rights of freedom of expression and of information. Madam President, our delegation will listen to the interventions from the floor and we will respond accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. I now give the floor to the representative of the National Commission for Human Rights of Pakistan for comments. You have 2 minutes and the floor is yours.
Dear Madam President, dear Secretariat, dear esteemed delegates of NGOs and dear state representatives. We thank you all for your excellent work during the UPR cycle and thank the multiple delegates and excellencies who have collaborated with us and helped make our concerns heard. To begin, we would like to highlight the effective and positive improvements Pakistan has made by ratifying conventions and protocols regarding human rights, as well as creating bills. These are huge steps taken in the right direction. However, we believe other steps can and must be taken. For this, we are pleased the Argentinian recommendation concerning children's rights was subjected to further review. We also remain very pleased by the 2 accepted recommendations concerning environmental rights. However, we are deeply concerned that the excellencies have not analysed further many other recommendations that were made. We would like to reiterate our wish, that is also shared by most of our partners in this UPR cycle, that Pakistan take further into consideration recommendations to improve children and women's rights, to respect freedom of expression and freedom of belief, as well as to prohibit more efficiently torture and death penalty. Although some national regulations already exist, the issue is rather ensuring that they are truly implemented thanks to effective mechanisms and tools on the field. And as our report shows, this is far from always being the case. Said regulations may also be subjected to reform to ensure human rights. We know this is a difficult task, and this is why the government must work further with civil society we represent. This UPR process is essential in promoting human rights across the world. We regret the delegation has seen multiple recommendations as political acts of hatred and hope this will not be the case in the next UPR cycle. Thank you, esteemed delegates, excellencies, and Madam President.
Thank you very much. I'll now give the floor to the observer states so that we can hear their comments on the review of Pakistan. Each state will have 1 minute. The first speaker is a representative from Argentina. Your Excellency, you have 1 minute.
Distinguished Madam President, dear fellow delegates, the delegation of Argentina congratulates the state of Pakistan for the presentation of their working group report's addendum. Having taken note of all efforts, the delegation of Argentina stays alarmed by the unwillingness of the state of Pakistan to stop discriminatory practices against persons of diverse gender as well as children. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. The next speaker is a representative from the state of India. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. The nation of India thanks the nation of Pakistan for their participation in the cycle, along with their consideration of our recommendations. The nation of India is saddened by the receipt of our recommendations and hope for reconsideration of both recommendations regarding Pakistan's maternal mortality rates, along with the repeal of the anti-Ahmadi provisions in the PPC 29 and blasphemy laws. We believe that these concerns are not politically motivated, and we have been in cooperation with several NGOs on these topics. We again suggest to reconsideration about these topics, and thank you again for your willingness to participate in this fruitful and meaningful dialogue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Our next speaker is a representative from the state of Morocco. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. The Kingdom of Morocco welcomes the delegation of Pakistan and thanks it for the presentation of the development since the last review and for its collaboration throughout the whole revision process. The Kingdom of Morocco thanks Pakistan for following up on the supported recommendation given by Morocco. Our delegation congratulates Pakistan for all of the efforts made to move towards greener energies and hopes that Pakistan population benefits from better air quality in the future. Morocco would like to encourage Pakistan to strengthen its effort on guaranteeing the right to health, women's and children's rights.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Our next speaker is a representative from the state of South Africa. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. The delegation of South Africa would like to thank the Islamic Republic of Pakistan for their addendum and their efforts since the adoption of the working group report. As we were hoping for further comments on a noted recommendation regarding the ratification of the second optional protocol to the ICCPR, aiming to abolish the death penalty, South Africa wants to emphasize once more the importance of this protocol and its ratification. The delegation of South Africa would kindly ask the delegation of Pakistan for further explanation. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Our next speaker is a representative from the United Kingdom. You have 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Madam President. The UK appreciates that Pakistan decided to support our recommendation number 12, implementing the use of renewable energy. We would like to point out our concern on the fulfillment of international standards due to the lack of ratification of all the conventions for the protection of children's rights. Moreover, we would like to ask to the Republic of Pakistan to consider again the implementation of appropriate and accessible measures to abortion services in line with your commitment to address women's rights. Finally, we strongly suggest increasing efforts to guarantee a proper enjoyment of freedom of expression by amending the Article 19 of your Constitution. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Excellency. I now give the floor to international organizations to make their comments. Each organization will have 1 minute. Please raise your hands and wait for your name to be called out. Our first speaker is Greenpeace. You may have the floor. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President, Your Excellencies. Greenpeace welcomes the acceptance of Pakistan of the recommendations made concerning the replacement of fossil energy sources with alternative sources of energy and the reduction of activities of coal-built factories. Greenpeace also recognizes the efforts of the government of Pakistan in regards to the transition to renewable energy. However, Greenpeace remains deeply concerned about the dire working conditions of miners in Pakistan and reiterates the need to take action to provide a safe and healthy working environment for mine workers. Greenpeace therefore urgently requests Pakistan to ratify the International Labour Organization Convention 176 on mine safety and take all necessary measures to protect mine workers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is a representative from the Center of Reproductive Rights. Ms. Menegatti, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. Despite a successful lobbying effort undertaken by India and the UK, Pakistan noted all recommendations regarding sexual and reproductive rights. Even though some measures have been taken by Pakistan to decrease maternal mortality and address its root causes, we are expecting greater commitment to solve this problem. The Center regrets, in fact, the fact that the recommendations were noted because accepting them would have shown real commitment towards the issue. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is a representative from Unrepresented Nations and People's Organization. Ms. Rotundi, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. Your Excellencies, AMPO is much concerned on the fact that Pakistan has put to further examination the recommendation on the implementation of necessary measures to prevent and prosecute child marriage. We want to make further remarks on the violation of the right to the child's liberty, with a special reference to Pakistani girls from religious minorities who are frequently subject to forced religious conversion through child marriage. We urge that concrete and effective protection of children's rights, especially girls from religious minorities, will be soon taken seriously into consideration and implemented in the Pakistani legislation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is a representative from Save the Children. Ms. Costa, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. Save the Children thanks the participation of the state of Pakistan in this UPR cycle. However, we remain concerned about the noted recommendations regarding children's rights. We want to express our continuous concern about the children's situation in Pakistan, especially regarding the quality and extension of the Pakistani health system, vaccination and nutritional plan for children, which have direct impacts on the child mortality rate in the country. Special attention shall be given to early childhood and the survival of Pakistani children. Protecting children is essential to build better and more resilient societies. We sincerely hope that in the next cycles, we will be able to see more recommendations regarding children's rights promotion and protection being accepted by the state of Pakistan. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. This concludes the list of speakers of the stakeholders. I now give the floor back to Pakistan for its final remarks. Excellency, you have the floor and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you to the national delegations and the civil society organizations for their interventions. Pakistan is working towards the recommendations, excuse me. Pakistan is working towards the recommendations mentioned previously and has taken its final position on the said recommendations. Nonetheless, the government of Pakistan is already fulfilling obligations in regard to the human rights. The ongoing mentioning of the international instruments are part of the process of further analysis that conveys with our national interests. A number of recommendations were made to design and implement improvements in regard to the social political conditions of Pakistan citizens, and therefore we value the shared commitments with the international community. We are fully conscious of the domestic challenges that Pakistan faces in the human rights realm. We acknowledge them and we assure you that Pakistan government and authorities are fully committed towards the protection and promotion of human rights. Our commitment on promoting children's rights remains unwavering and consistent, and we recall the establishment of the National Commission of the Rights of Children Bill and the Pakistan's effort to promoting children against violence, abuses, neglection, and discrimination. Moreover, Pakistan has taken the necessary measures about environmental concerns stated by the national delegation. In regard to the death penalty, the concerns are, we assure that the concerns about death penalty, we assure that this matter is only applicable in the most severe crimes. In terms of the health concerns, we have adopted a variety of safety nets in the areas of health and promoting the women's rights and safety. We are fully committed to the universal health coverage. We regret the concerns taken by the non-governmental organizations. The Islamic Republic of Pakistan thanks the civil society organizations for their comments and hopes that in the next cycle, there is a more fruitful dialogue with them will take place then. Madam President, I will Again, like to convey our deep appreciation for heading the session. I would also reiterate our expression of appreciation to the Secretariat and to the members of the Troika Morocco for their support and cooperation in the UPR process. Thank you.
I thank Her Excellency for her comments and for Pakistan's participation throughout the University Periodic Review process. I now suggest the Council to adopt the decision on the outcome of the UPR of Pakistan. If there is no objection, it is now adopted. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we shall now continue with item 6 of the Human Rights Council with the adoption of the Working Group Report of South Africa. It is with pleasure to give the floor to Her Excellency, Ms. Hannah Crane, Deputy Permanent Representative of South African Permanent in Geneva, to present the general outcome of the Working Group sessions. Your Excellency, you have 5 minutes. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam President. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, my delegation and I are pleased to contribute to this item 6 session of the Human Rights Council. We want to use the opportunity to express our congratulations to successful improvements so far. Since we presented our national report to the working group 6 months ago, South Africa considered to all recommendations following our review within the working group. Our addendum to the Human Rights Council represents the official response of the South African government to the 11 recommendations. These recommendations and the presented responses to them were discussed extensively through all.
Excuse me, Ms. Crane. My apologies.
Yes.
Could you please restart your speech? Because there was an internet breakdown. We could not hear you clearly.
Thank you, Madam President. I will start again. So thank you, Madam President. Can you now hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the floor again. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you will hear me well now. My delegation and I feel pleased to contribute to this item 6 session of the Human Rights Council. We want to use the opportunity to express our congratulations to other member states who have presented their successful improvements so far. Since we presented our national report to the working group 6 months ago, South Africa has given intensive consideration to all recommendations of the member states following our review within the working group. Our addendum to the Human Rights Council represents the official response of the South African government to the 11 recommendations received. These recommendations and the presented responses to them were discussed extensively through all levels of government and the adoption cabinet. South Africa continued to work with the state institutions that were established to ensure human rights in terms of the Constitution, especially with the South African Human Rights Commission. As required, we want to note that the South African government will in future be issuing development reports on the status of implementation of the recommendations. We are pleased to inform the Council that the government is on an advanced stage of implementing recommendations relating to gender sensitivity in executive forces. In order to combat gender-based violence and increase gender sensitivity in the South African Police Service, measures of training were intensified in close cooperation with the Commission of Gender Equality. Shortly after our review, the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women was publicly commemorated in South Africa with engagement of relevant government departments, state institutions, civil society, and academia in order to enhance awareness and build important partnerships. Furthermore, we would like to point out that recommendations 6 and 11, referring to children's rights and equal access to education, are being implemented through legislative procedures, predominantly through the adoption of the Children's Amendment Bill, which enhances the protection of vulnerable children. The government collaborates intensively with the Human Rights Commission to mitigate imbalances in the access to quality education, especially focusing on children in rural areas. The government is currently at a stage of discussion on how to improve the education infrastructure, particularly focusing on transport systems, as it was recommended. With regards to the recommendations received related to access to health, South Africa further highlights its efforts in the establishment of the national health insurance to achieve universal health coverage. However, the health sector in South Africa was heavily affected by the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, which has restrained further developments. We want to emphasize that the government will continuously work on eradicating any imbalances in the access to health. Although South Africa is not able to unconditionally accept all recommendations, we will eagerly consider the noted recommendations in all levels of the government. In this regard, we want to reiterate that the Constitution of South Africa, containing the Bill of Rights in Chapter 2, is the center of all our legislations and policies. The majority of rights manifested in this Chapter 2 of our Constitution is applicable to everyone, irrespective of origin or migration background. Therefore, the government is still discussing the necessity of ratification of the international norms that were mentioned within the review. South Africa, as a sub-Saharan country, is excessively affected by the effects of climate change, including droughts, fish exploitation, and water stress. Considering the crucial challenge of water stress, South Africa is at this point not able to ensure the expansion of water supply networks throughout the whole country, as it was recommended. Nevertheless, the government prioritizes access to clean water for everyone in South Africa, simultaneously working intensively with international developmental partners on this mentioned challenge. Madam President, my delegation and I is ready and very willing to listen to comments and concerns of other member states, as well as present civil society organizations. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. I now give the floor to the representative of South African Human Rights Commission for comments. You have 2 minutes and the floor is yours.
Madam President, distinguished members of the Human Rights Council, excellencies and delegates, I have the honor to speak on behalf of the South African Human Rights Commission, a national human rights institution with an A status accreditation under the Paris Principles. The Commission welcomes the opportunity today to make a statement on this important occasion and to comment on South Africa's improved participation within this fourth cycle of the UPR. We are pleased that the review highlighted many important matters regarding the human rights situation in South Africa. In line with the recommendations, the South African Human Rights Commission will continue its work to ensure that all matters raised during this cycle will be implemented effectively and without delay. The Commission specifically welcomes the progressive agenda the South African government has envisioned with regard to the right to health and education by accepting all of the 5 recommendations raised. We once more want to emphasize the inhuman practice of ukudwala and call on the government to take immediate action and legislate against this practice as soon and as effectively as possible. Moreover, the Commission highlights the importance and urgency of ratifying the International Convention on the Protection of the Rights of all Migrant Workers and members of their families. With regard to the matter of water and sanitation, the Commission welcomes that the recommendation 7 has been accepted. However, this issue can only be addressed sustainably if recommendation 5, the expansion of the water supply network, is also fulfilled. Finally, the South African Human Rights Commission highly welcomes that the recommendations regarding gender sensitivity with executive forces were accepted, and that the South African government hereby commits to counteract gender-based violence in a fruitful way. The South African Human Rights Commission is pleased to have contributed to this cycle of the UPR and thanks all participants who have provided their valuable input in such challenging times. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll now give the floor to the observer states so that they give their comments on the review of South Africa. Each state has 1 minute. The first speaker is a representative from the state of Argentina. Excellency, you have 1 minute.
Distinguished Madam President, dear fellow delegates, the delegation of Argentina congratulates the state of South Africa for the presentation of their working group report's addendum. While welcoming the efforts shown within the last 6 months, especially regarding the established and adequately financed sensitivity trainings of the South African police services, the delegation of Argentina would like to strongly support a decision by the state of South Africa in favor of ratifying the International Convention on the Protection of the Rights of all Migrant Workers and Members of their Families, as was stated to be under consideration. Thank you for your cooperation.
Thank you, Excellency. Our next speaker is a representative from the state of India. Excellency, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. The nation of India thanks to the nation of South Africa for their participation in the cycle. The nation of India celebrates the nation of South Africa for their acceptance of our recommendation regarding the continuing efforts to ensure access to quality healthcare for all South Africans, especially with regard to the disparities between the rural and urban areas. The nation of India appreciates the progress made by these commitments. We also like to thank National Human Rights Institution of South Africa for their cooperation in this cycle. Thank you again for your willingness to participate in this fruitful and meaningful dialogue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Our next speaker is a representative from the state of Morocco. Excellency, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. The Kingdom of Morocco welcomes the delegation of South Africa and thanks for the presentation of development since the first cycle.
Excuse me, Excellency. Could you please speak up, please?
Okay. The Kingdom of Morocco welcomes the delegation of South Africa and thanks for the presentation of developments made since the fourth cycle review and for its collaboration throughout the whole reviewing process. Morocco congratulates South Africa for providing gender sensitivity training to police officers and considers that these efforts should also be made toward government officials and judges. The Kingdom of Morocco would like to encourage South Africa to keep the water supply issues on top of their agenda in order to guarantee its fundamental needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Our next speaker is a representative of the state of Pakistan. Excellency, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President, fellow delegates, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. The delegation of Pakistan would like to welcome the delegation of South Africa and thank its representatives for the comprehensive statement presented here today. Of the 11 recommendations received, 3 were noted and 8 accepted. But we're very pleased to learn that all 3 recommendations presented by Pakistan were accepted. This shows the commitment of South Africa to the goal of eradicating poverty and to the social inclusion of all South Africans, regardless of their urban or rural background. The large number of recommendations accepted also shows the commitment of South Africa to the UPR mechanism. We wish them well in this endeavor and in the effective implementation of the recommendations they have accepted. We recommend that the report of South Africa should be adopted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Our next speaker is a representative from the state of the United Kingdom. Excellency, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. The UK delegation expresses gratitude towards the Republic of South Africa for considering recommendation number 10. We are confident that the state, together with the civil society organization, will converge in efforts to provide equal access to health system. We are also pleased that our recommendation number 11 on equal access to education for all children after further examination has been accepted, increasing the national budget on the expenditure for the education sector. The UK, however, encourages South Africa to consider the ratification of the ILO protocol to 1930 on Forced Labour Convention, as well to enforce the existing national mechanism and policies about forced labour. Lastly, we would like to express our final concern about the Ukutwala practice that still remains carried out on children and causing child marriage. We encourage the Republic of South Africa to consider ways to discourage this practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And I now give the floor to international organizations for them to make comments. Please raise your hand. Really? Thank you very much. I now give the floor back to South Africa for its final remarks. Excellency, you have the floor and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President. Distinguished delegates, fellow representatives of the South African Human Rights Commissions, representatives of NGOs, we would like to start by thanking you for your constructive comments and give you the assurance that all your final remarks will be taken into further consideration. Regarding the remark about the practice of Ukutwala in municipalities, which has been raised, we just want to highlight that the South African government highly rejects the practice as it violates various rights of girl victims and eradicates the African value of Ubuntu, meaning humanity. Therefore, South Africa has set up a comprehensive legal framework. Harmful practices like sexual exploitation of children is criminalized, and so is abduction, kidnapping, rape, or trafficking. The Children's Amendment Bill, which has recently been adopted, is legally prohibiting child marriages, thus contributing to ban the practice of Ukutwala in our society. As already stipulated in the addendum, South Africa would like to again emphasize that the majority of rights guaranteed in our constitution is applicable to everyone. The South African immigration legislation, including the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, ensures the protection of all workers irrespective of their migration background. However, the government is at a stage of consideration whether to ratify the Convention on the Protection of the Rights of All Migrant Workers and Members of Families. Madam President, my delegation and I want to express our thanks for this fruitful Item 6 session and our appreciation of the interaction in the Human Rights Council. We also want to thank again all participating member states and representatives of civil society for their contributions. South Africa emphasizes its commitment to the continual improvement of its human rights performance and is willing to continue its ambitious engagement in the next cycles. Thank you.
I thank Her Excellency for her comments and for South Africa's participation throughout the UPR process. I now suggest the Council should adopt the decision on the outcome of the UPR of South Africa. If there is no comment, it is now adopted. Excellencies, distinguished guests, Ladies and gentlemen, we shall now continue with item 6 of the Human Rights Council with the adoption of the Working Group Report of the United Kingdom. It is with pleasure to give the floor to Her Excellency, Ms. Francesca Bolio, United Kingdom Permanent Representative of the United Nations in Geneva, to present the general outcome of the working group sessions. Your Excellency, you have 5 minutes and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam President. Distinguished delegates, I have the honor to be here today on behalf of Ms. Perkis to present the United Kingdom formal response to the recommendation received during its review at the Universal Periodic Review earlier this week. The UK strongly believes in the uniqueness of the UPR. For this reason, we want to reiterate our commitment in securing a successful future for the mechanism as a whole by approaching the review in a spirit of openness. Madam President, while we believe we have a good human rights record, we have consistently made clear that there is always room for improvement. This is why we are eager to learn from others and offer our knowledge when called upon. As the first cycle is underway, there have been many fruitful discussions to redefine the long-term potential of the Universal Periodic Review. In order to maintain the universality of the mechanism and to assure that no country is left behind, the UK urges all states to participate openly. Madam President, in relation to recommendation for the UK, constructive feedback is key. This is why we believe that recommendations should be based on specific and measurable objectives. Consequently, in this cycle, we decided to increase the number of recommendations we have given out to states by ensuring that they are realistic and achievable within the time frame given. Regarding the next steps to be taken, the United Kingdom responding to the recommendation received after extensive consultation across the UK and devolved administrations. Furthermore, Ms. Perkis met with civil society, human rights institutions, and NGOs immediately after the UK review. This has been a very positive experience for the UK, and we are happy to share any of the knowledge gained with fellow states and representatives. We have ensured full transparency in the response to the recommendation we have received, and the UK is committed to updating the working group on its progress by providing a midterm report in 2023. The report will contain updates on the accepted recommendation as well as those we do not accept. In our view, midterm reports are an important tool to monitor and measure progress by allowing states to stay focused through the first year cycle. Our suggestion is to urge further states to pursue publishing a midterm report. Madam President, out of the 11 recommendations, we are pleased to say we accept in full 6 and note 5. Additionally, we set out responses in a formal document to outline our methodology and explain why we have accepted or noted each of the recommendations. I would like to highlight that Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland were involved in the recommendation that fall under their competence. Madam President, after careful consideration, we conclude that at this stage, we cannot commit to the implementation for 5 recommendations. There are 3 reasons why we decide not to accept them. Firstly, we'll only accept a recommendation we can implement. Secondly, it could be because policy review has already been concluded and we would like to maintain the current policy. Lastly, we may note a recommendation because we do not accept the assertion made. However, we would like to stress our dedication to keep noted the recommendation under close review, as in previous cycles we have been known to implement them, further underlining that every recommendation is taken into account. Madam President, I would like to conclude by reiterating that from the UK perspective, each cycle of the UPR is a constructive process that allows states to learn and help each other to protect and promote human rights worldwide. We strongly encourage other states to approach the UPR with the same attitude. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Excellency. I now give the floor to the representative of the Equality and Human Rights Commission for comments. Ms. Leah Rachel Ria, you have 2 minutes and the floor is yours.
Madam President, Excellencies, fellow delegates, on behalf of the delegation of the Equality and Human Rights Commission, may I express our gratitude for the opportunity to participate in the UPR in respect of the evaluation of the United Kingdom. We wish to thank the state delegations for their engagement with the Commission on issues we had outlined within our submission and presentation. We would like to express our gratitude to the UK for its engagement and commitment to further collaboration with the Commission, which we have welcomed in the pursuit of the continued progression of human rights. The UPR is a vital mechanism enabling states to illustrate their commitment with the international community as regards the advancement of human rights. In this regard, we welcome the adoption of various recommendations made by state delegations by the UK as evidence of its commitment to the progression of human rights. We particularly acknowledge and appreciate the shared support in the matter of the safeguarding of rights of girls and addressing gender-based violence, and welcome the progress made on ensuring access to reproductive health care. However, we would like to draw attention to issues still not addressed by the delegation. In our contribution to the pre-session some 6 months ago, we expressed our position the exercise of rights by minority groups was a pressing matter. As such, we regret the limited consideration of the impact of the practice of restraint and exclusion of students with SEN within school settings and the ramifications of limited oversight of this practice in the absence of national minimum standards for recording and training. We affirm the UK has an obligation to undertake measures to address this matter. Furthermore, Madam President, we regret recommendations number 6 and 8 made regarding safeguarding the rights of children were merely noted, and directly regret the unchanged positions of the UK regarding corporal punishment and increasing the age of criminal responsibility in England and Wales, contrary to international human rights standards. Finally, Madam President, we confirm our sincere appreciation for comments made by state delegations in support of our concerns regarding the Nationality and Borders Bill 2020. It remains our opinion the UK must uphold its obligations under international humanitarian law, and we continue to seek engagement with the UK. Madam President, fellow delegates, Excellencies, we respectfully thank you for your consideration during the review of the United Kingdom and for your continued commitment to the advancement of human rights and dignity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll now give the floor to the observer states so that we can hear their comments about the review of the United Kingdom. Each state has 1 minute. Our first speaker is a representative from the state of Argentina. Excellency, you have 1 minute.
Distinguished Madam President, dear fellow delegates, the delegation of Argentina congratulates the United Kingdom for the presentation of their working group report's addendum. Taking note with satisfaction of the comprehensive implementation of the accepted recommendations, the delegation of Argentina encourages the United Kingdom to follow their current course of direction. Still, the delegation of Argentina would like to stress the importance of the ratification of regional as well as international treaties in the regard of human rights, such as the Council of Europe's Convention on Preventing and Combating Violence against Women and Domestic Violence. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Excellency. Next speaker is a representative from the state of India. Excellency, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. The nation of India thanks the United Kingdom for their participation in this cycle, along with their consideration of our recommendation. The nation of India is hopeful that the United Kingdom will make further review of our recommendation positively in regards to keeping the strategies of 1951 Refugee Convention and withdrawing from the Nationality and Borders Bill 2021 from the United Kingdom Parliament. We also would like to say thank you to National Human Rights Institution of United Kingdom for their cooperation in this cycle. Thank you again for your willingness to participate in this dialogue. Thank you very much for everybody.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Our next speaker is a representative from the state of Morocco. Excellency, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. The Kingdom of Morocco welcomes the delegation of the United Kingdom and thanks for the presentation of the developments made since the first cycle review and for its collaboration throughout the whole revision process. The Kingdom of Morocco thanks the United Kingdom for supporting our recommendation and commitment to respecting international human rights standards on future legislation. The Kingdom of Morocco hopes that the coming Nationality and Borders Bill is indeed accurate to them and encourages the United Kingdom to continue in its path towards the guarantee of human rights, particularly regarding the rights of the child. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Our next speaker is a representative from the state of Pakistan. Excellency, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President, fellow delegates, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to welcome and thank the delegation of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland for briefing the Council on developments since the UK's review and the fourth cycle of the Universal Periodic Review. Of the 3 recommendations Pakistan made to the UK in the previous working group session, only 1 was accepted and the other 2 were noted. We would like to take this time to reiterate the importance of ratifying the International Human Rights Conventions and the protocols, and of protecting and promoting children's rights and dignity. Nonetheless, we hope that the government of the United Kingdom is committed to and will actively be working towards the promotion and protection of human rights in the country. We wish them well in this endeavor and in the effective implementation of the recommendations they have accepted. In conclusion, we recommend that the report of the United Kingdom should be adopted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Our next speaker is a representative from the state of the United Kingdom. No? My apologies. Our next speaker is a representative from the state of South Africa.
Thank you, Madam President. The delegation of South Africa would like to thank the United Kingdom for the addendum and welcome their achievements. South Africa acknowledges the efforts made by the government of the United Kingdom to publish reports on the impacts of the pandemic on the social care sector. South Africa congratulates on extending the special order on facilitating remote access to abortion care, as well as the plan to establish abortion services in the state of Northern Ireland. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And now I give the floor to international organizations for them to make any comments. May you please raise your hand and wait for your name to be called out. Our speaker is a representative from the Center of the Reproductive Rights.
Thank you, Madam President. In the addendum, the UK took specific steps to implement the recommendation on remote abortion services by indefinitely extending the temporary provision in England, Wales, and Scotland, and committing to set up a remote abortion service provision in Northern Ireland by March 2022. The establishment of measurable deadlines show real commitment, and the Centre is satisfied with how this recommendation has been implemented. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This concludes the list of speakers of the stakeholders. I now give the floor back to the United Kingdom for its final remarks. Excellency, you have the floor and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President. Fellow delegates and representatives, it was an honor and a privilege for the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland to address the adoption of Item 6 in this session of the Universal Periodic Review. We would like to thank once again the Secretariat for the professional way in which the UPR was conducted, and we would like to express our sincere gratitude to our fellow delegates from Member States. Furthermore, we will congratulate the representatives from NGOs and HRIs who have contributed to the debate this morning and for the incredible work done over the last few months. It has been enormously useful for us to hear every issue the group felt to deserve scrutiny. And for this reason, in order to ensure full transparency to the recommendation received, we reiterate our intention to publish a midterm report by 2023. The midterm report will have the objective of maintaining clarity on the progress being made without overburdening the UPR. Madam President, the Universal Periodic Review mechanism for the United Kingdom is seen as a continuous process. For this reason, due to the limited time frame, we intend to continue the dialogue with the different members of the civil society organization, including national human rights institutions and NGOs, to ensure the far-reaching impact of implementing the recommendation in between each cycle. In conclusion, we hope that the UK has been able to demonstrate during this Universal Periodic Review and in the Addendum how seriously we take our domestic and international human rights obligation. Madam President, we are very grateful and committed to adopting all of these actions into our follow-up efforts in order to ensure the successful impact of the UPR in the long run. Thank you very much.
I thank Her Excellency for her comments and for the participation of the United Kingdom throughout the UPR process. I now suggest that the Council should adopt the decision on the outcome of the UPR of United Kingdom. If there is no objection, it is now adopted. With the adoption of the outcome for the Universal Periodic Review of the United Kingdom, we have concluded the review and approval of the outcomes of the UPR for the 6 states under review during the Padova Model UPR. The regular session of the Human Rights Council item 6 is closed. Thank you, Your Excellencies, for your presentations and for the fruitful participation in the whole UPR process. I now propose that the Council adopt the decision on the outcomes of the Universal Periodic Review of Argentina, India, Morocco, Pakistan, South Africa, and the United Kingdom. Are there any further comments or questions to be made from the floor? I see no objection. The decision is adopted. I now declare the session closed. We will reconvene at 12 midday for the awards and closing ceremonies. All participants are invited to fill in the questionnaire as well as cast a vote for the best team according to participants' award. Please do it as soon as possible so that we have enough time to deliberate on the winner. The link for the voting will now be sent in the Zoom chat. See you shortly. The time of when we should be back for the award ceremony will be reflected in the Zoom waiting room.